in Employee Retention Culture today is sponsored by the Workforce Development Board of Alameda County. My name is Anna Manzano. I'm the Digital Media and Event Strategist here at the California Employers Association, and we just want to thank you for joining us live this afternoon. Before we get into today's training, I have just a couple details to go over with you. So as you see, your audio is muted for today's presentation, but there are going to be lots of opportunities and invitations to engage during today's training. So we hope that you bring your questions and bring your engagement today during your time with us. If you do have any questions about the content, you can just put those into the chat box at any time and we'll try to address them as we go. I'll be here the whole time watching that chat box. So if you have any technical issues or things that you want to make sure Kim sees, just ping me and I'll be glad to help you. Handouts for this training were sent out in yesterday's reminder email, but what I'm going to do is also drop that PDF into the chat in just a moment. So once you see, once you see that PDF icon and file name pop up, you can just click on either one of those and it'll download locally to your drive. And again, if you have any problems accessing that file, just message me in the chat and I'll be happy to help you. Last but not least, we do have a survey. It is a very brief survey, I promise. It's only 5 questions. It takes generally 60 seconds or so to complete. But the feedback that you provide with us in those, in those 60 seconds, we really do take to heart here at CEA. We share your feedback with our partners over at Alameda County, and we just collectively make sure that we are meeting and hopefully exceeding your expectations with both trainings like this, as well as our entire suite of resources available to employers like yourself. So you'll see a slide pop up at the end with a QR code. I've also set it up so that once you click out of Zoom, a browser window will pop up and it'll give you an invitation to opt in. All you have to do is click on that button to start the survey, and then it'll take you. So choose your own adventure there, but you'll see the slide at the very end giving you that prompt. Now that all of that is, all the little housekeeping details are done, I have the great pleasure of introducing our trainer today. We have Kim Guzman, who is our president and CEO here at the California Employers Association, and I'm going to give it over to Kim. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. Well, welcome everybody as we kind of end up 2024. Exciting to talk about designing an employee retention culture. And let's start off by saying we know that not every person we hire is a good fit, right? It's just impossible, no matter how much effort you put into hiring somebody. Sometimes it's just not a good fit for your company or for the person you hire. But when you do find the right fit, when you do have all the right people on the bus, as Jim Collins said, then you want to make sure you've got a workplace culture that retains and keeps those great employees. And that's really what we're going to talk about here today. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to remind you that as a business owner, a business manager, a leader, anybody that's an employer in Alameda County gets to take advantage of hearing some great HR guidance throughout the year, some leadership training, all free because of Alameda County Workforce Development Board. So they pay out of their business services funds, and all your taxpayer dollars are put to work to help you stay in compliance and stay out of court. And what Alameda County offers to you through us is an HR hotline. And so this HR hotline is 888-202-5668. So anytime throughout the year, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, that you've got a question, how do I hire somebody? How do I let somebody go? What if so-and-so's pregnant? What about bereavement leave? What about paid sick leave? Any question at all, you can call us Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 at this hotline, and we're here to answer your questions. And that's a wonderful free service. So why did Alameda County partner with CEA? Well, we are a not-for-profit employers association. We're a 501c6 trade association, and we are all about providing peace of mind for you as a business owner, a business leader, a founder, an employer in Alameda County. And we do that for employers all over the state of California. We consider ourselves subject matter experts when it comes to California employment laws. And we also consider ourselves an expert in our field when it comes to being responsive to your needs. So when you call us on those numbers, or you call us here on our 800 number, either way, you're going to get a live human being. We're going to help you out, make your life easier, and hopefully lighten your load for you. Now, I said that we are subject matter experts, and we are when it comes to California employment laws and human resource, but we are not your attorney. We do have attorneys on our team, and they're wonderful, and they provide us with great presentations such as this one. But when it comes to, hey, I need an attorney's opinion, that's when you go get your own legal counsel and advice. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing and what we're hearing, not only for 2024 as we come to a year's end, but what are we seeing and hearing from some of the heavy hitters like Forbes and other business trends that we're seeing for 2025. How can we make sure that we keep those right people on the bus and keep people not only on the bus and in our businesses, but engaged and feeling recognized, feeling appreciated, giving 110% instead of 80%. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm a big proponent of take what you like and leave the rest. These might be some refresher ideas. Maybe there's some new, aha, I never thought of that. And again, in the chat box on the side, which Anna's taking a reading for me, because I can't see that, I'm just seeing the slides. If you have questions or you want to share a best practice with all the other fellow Alameda County employers, please share what works for you as we hit on certain topics. That's the best way to learn, is from each other. We used to do a lot of these live and in person before the pandemic. And my favorite parts of doing live training was if I talked about, for example, employee referral programs or something like that, or an employee recognition program. I just share a little bit of data and statistics, but then somebody in the room would say, well, hey, here's what we do. And somebody else, and sometimes just hearing from each other was the best information, even better than the presentation. So please do that in the chat box in our new virtual world. So again, if I was live in front of you, I'd say, raise your hands and tell me which one of these things is your Achilles heel. Are any of these challenges hard for you when it comes to keeping and retaining employees in your organization? We take a lot of phone calls every day and every year from employers all over California, thousands and thousands of calls. And what we tend to hear, we put here on these 7 bullet points, is that maybe we as an employer are not giving enough professional development. So are you setting aside money for professional development? Some of your employees may never care about getting professional development. Some of your employees may never want to go to a conference. They may never want to take a new Excel class. They may never want to take any other form of new knowledge and education. But some of your employees might absolutely need that. So when you look at your budget each year, are you setting aside a bucket of money for professional development? And then as you talk, and we'll talk about it here today, as you do one-on-ones, as you do performance reviews, as you talk with your employees, do you ask them? Because I think we don't ask enough as leaders, what more can I give to you? What more tools can I put in your toolbox? And usually that's going to be in the form of training or education or some kind of professional development. Another thing we hear a lot of times is, gosh, Kim, I'm just struggling with getting my employees back into the office. Our morale's really low because I asked them to come back 2 days a week and they didn't want to after the pandemic, and they're just not engaged and they're barely here, and so on and so forth. So then I would generally will talk with people about how can we improve morale? We're going to talk about that today. How can we increase that employee's engagement? One of the things is making sure you're playing to their strengths. Another thing is making sure even if you're requiring them to come into the office, are you giving them flexibility? Can they kind of meet or beat the traffic, right? Can they come in a little bit later, leave a few minutes early? Can you do some things that are minor and flexible that help improve engagement? Do you have coffee in the lunchroom? Do you have a donut day? Whatever it might be. So that flexibility also helps with low morale and engagement. And I know that a lot of times if you're in maybe you're in restaurant business, retail business, manufacturing, you're like, geez, it's hard to be flexible, right? We're forward facing. Our manufacturing is 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And those are our 3 shifts. How do I be flexible? Well, maybe you go to 410s. Maybe you go to 312s. Can you give some floating holidays? What can you do to be flexible with a schedule? Employee recognition, one of the things that we learned from Gallup, we have some certified strength finder trainers here at CEA. And one of the things they've shared with us is that employees truly like to be recognized every 7 days if they can be. And that sounds like a heavy lift on the part of a leader, right? Like, oh my goodness, if I have 20 employees, how do I recognize them every 7 days? But it can be so many things. It can be a short email. It can be a shout out. It can be a call where you say, good job, thank you. It can be a letter. It can be a little card, a note. It could be a financial bonus as a way to recognize somebody. One time years ago, I actually, at a staff meeting, and I'm way overdue to do it, I had everybody write down on a piece of paper, if I could recognize you for $20 or less, $20 or less, this was about 10 years ago, what could I do? And it had some interesting things that I didn't know. People said, don't ever, what some person said, don't ever recognize me in front of others, do it privately. Somebody else said, I want to be recognized in front of others. Somebody said a gift card to Starbucks. Somebody else said, I like fresh flowers. I mean, it was very interesting the way people want to be recognized. Sometimes you don't know until you ask. Another thing we hear from the employees in why they leave businesses is maybe they aren't being heard. I keep volunteering my ideas and I keep getting shut down. And not every idea is a great idea, and not every idea is something that a company can embrace and do, but it doesn't mean people should feel like they aren't even heard, right? So are you collaborating? Is there an opportunity for, seeing if an idea is a good idea before we flush it out? Another reason that employees can want to leave a company sometimes is because there's not accountability. So, it is frustrating if you see nobody, quote unquote, following the rules. And then you're like, why should I follow the rules if nobody else here is? And when she or he doesn't follow the rules, there's no consequences. They're late to every single meeting. They're never here on time, but nothing's ever done about it. Why should I be on time? That kind of thing. And then finally, do you have a good employee handbook with really clear expectations? Do you have job descriptions so that people really know, what are you expecting of me? What are my goals this year? What should I definitely be doing and definitely not be doing? A lot of times organizations don't take the time to do that, especially when somebody is brand new. So that's what we have seen at CEA. Now here's what Forbes has seen, and this is based on Forbes onboarding best practices, another Forbes article on workplace trends that will define 2025, and another Forbes, we did a lot of Forbes here on from AI to workplace polarization and the top HR trends predicted for 2025. So one of the things is an interesting one, which is called reskilling and upskilling. One of the best analogies I've ever heard for this is, let's pretend you needed to have a new outfit for something you were going to, right? You're going to go to a new job interview, or you're going to a conference or a party or whatever, but you don't have any money, right? Or you have a very little bit of money. And that's what employers find oftentimes. I don't have a big budget. Well, if you needed a new outfit, you'd go back into your closet and you'd repurpose something, right? I never did put this shirt with this pair of pants, or this blouse with this skirt, or I did get one new pair of shoes. Maybe if I put that with this outfit, it changes the whole look, or put a belt on it. So repackaging what I have on a dime or shoestring budget is really what reskilling and upskilling is all about. If you go and hire a brand new person for a new job you have internally, versus taking somebody internally and giving them a little bit of training, you might find it's less expensive to upskill or reskill somebody you have internally versus bringing somebody in from the outside that might be commanding a much higher salary. So that's one workplace trend that we're seeing. Another one is emphasis on emerging skills. So emerging skills are really the skills that are around either AI, and people who know that, and how are we embodying and embracing AI so that we can do things better and faster. One thing here at CEA, a lot of times people say, help me with job descriptions. We have two ways to do that now that we didn't have before. One is we have CEA University, where it has a whole wonderful job description wizard, which makes life so much easier than me handwriting what a salesperson should do, or what an HR director should do, or what a warehouse person should do. The other thing is ChatGPT. In less than a minute, I can say to ChatGPT, what should I have? Please create for me a job description for a customer service manager. Boom. I can take that. I can tweak it to be good for my company, but the amount of time and energy and brain power just to get it started, that's what I call, a lot of times I say ChatGPT is beautiful starter dough, like you get starter dough for bread, right? It's ChatGPT can be great for that. So are we using those emerging skills with AI to make our workforces better? A flexible work model. We talked about that. I already talked a little bit about that, but people really do want flexibility. I think all of us saw, all of us saw during the pandemic that there was a lot we could do from home. And it was really nice not to spend so much money on gas. And it was really nice, to be able to just have a little bit more work-life balance. So now that when we are out of the pandemic, obviously, are we able to bring some of that into work? For example, at CEA, those of us in sales, marketing, and operations, were kind of the backbone of the organization and the infrastructure. We used to be Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 in the office. Now I say I'd like you here 2 days a week so that we can have meetings, we can be together, we can collaborate. It's so much easier to bounce ideas off of each other in person rather than scheduling a Zoom that nobody can meet. Okay, finally get it scheduled. Well, now that thought is gone. Now that spontaneity is gone. So having a flexible work model that makes your employees' lives a little easier is going to help you retain them. It's going to help you attract more. And that really is part of number 4, which is, as a leader, are you being human-centric? Your employees are people. They're people, their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their uncles, their children, their whatever. They have all these identities as a human being before they become your employee. So are you remembering that as a leader? That they are dealing with the same, daily things we all do, because we're all humans. But remembering that they are human beings before they are your employees is a great place to start. So are we doing that? That's a workplace trend that Forbes is talking about. We talked about the increased adoption of AI. And then again, boosting retention through onboarding programs. And this is probably one of the biggest things. When think about the last new job you took on, whether that was 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Think about when you started that new job, right? Hopefully you were excited, nervous, and you were soaking everything up like a sponge. You wanted to learn about that company. You wanted to learn about their culture. You wanted to know the rules. You wanted to know when you got breaks or lunches. You wanted to know when you got paid. You wanted to know if you got a bonus. So if you wanted to know all those things, so did those new employees walking in. And if you can make a very, 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 very good first impression, you've already got somebody, right? You want that first impression to be wonderful. It's kind of like a relationship on a date, right? When you are on that first impression you make on a date, you kind of make it or break it. I mean, if somebody sees a red flag within the first 10 minutes or even the first hour, they're like, that red flag stays. That doesn't go away. So what can you do in your onboarding new hire orientation program to eliminate red flags and instead to make them feel amazing? Buy them lunch on their first date. Maybe have them have flowers. Introduce them to everybody in the office. Take them on a tour of the building. Give them a short day so they're not too overwhelmed. All the different things you can do to make an onboarding program just really make that person feel wanted and valued and needed is going to help you retain that person in the long run. Anna, feel free to stop me at any time if any chats come up, please. So we did some surveys, we looked at other surveys, and we found a great one on entrepreneur.com. And it was talking about ways to avoid having your employees quiet quit or just quit in general. And then we did some other ones on what just do employees want at work? And I think, again, sometimes people say, oh, this is all touchy-feely. But I think it really isn't just touchy-feely. It's our world has shifted, right? We're not in our parents' world where they just were happy to have a job, happy to get paid, happy to have a regular paycheck. Maybe they got a pension, and the world is very different now. And a lot of employees kind of feel like my employer doesn't care about me. Why should I care about them? There's a lot more job hopping. I would use those rabbit ear quotes because, honestly, people, going from job to job every 2 years, what are they looking for? Why are they doing that? Well, what we've found and what we've read and the statistics show is that people truly do want a sense of purpose. They want to make a difference. Here at CEA, one of the things we do, all of us, I think, really enjoy about working here is knowing that we made a difference for somebody else. So when we talk with a client, a potential member who says, I'm struggling with this, and that. I have an employee headache here, or I really need a handbook, or I really need this training, but can you get it done in the next 2 weeks before the end of the year, or whatever. If we can provide a solution either on the phone with HR support, or maybe our sales team is able to go, yes, we can do that harassment prevention training for you, and we can do it next week. And Natalie was talking with a person, we can do it at 6 a.m. in the morning. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. What does that make her feel like? Wow, I served a great purpose today. I made somebody's life easier. So that's what employees want. We talked about the flexibility, so I'm not going to hit that again. The professional development. Again, if you're having regular one-on-ones with your employees, you find out, do they want professional development? Do they need it? It's interesting. Again, if you don't ask, sometimes people might not even thought of it, that they need it. And for example, we go to conferences, and there's one conference we go to for workforce development boards like Alameda County, and it's called Monterey Meeting of the Minds. And when we go there, we meet with all the workforce development boards across the state of California. And traditionally, we always went just the sales team, just the business development team, because we're the ones, working the room, if you will, making deals, right, with people. So the sales team should go. But as we talked about it with our sales team, we go, our marketing team is a big part of this too. We have marketing team members who make beautiful presentations, like this one right now, this Canva one that Anna helped us create, that make beautiful flyers for CEA, that help promote these things from Alameda County. So why don't we want to bring marketing along too? So sometimes introducing other departments to things a different department used to do is another way of giving somebody professional development. So we brought Sarah in our marketing department with us. She had a great time. She learned a whole lot. Now when she does marketing promo pieces for Alameda County, she understands who the people are that work at Alameda County, who the business services teams are. She met Javier, she met the rest of the team. Carmelo, and she got to know what workforce development boards are all about. So that's another way to really let employees grow in their position. Appreciating people, again, who doesn't like to be appreciated. One of the things we do at CEA that costs no money is that we recognize people on their CEA anniversary. And it doesn't take a ton of time, but it takes thought and intention. And you got to remind yourself, hey, Anna just hit her 2-year mark, or Kim just hit her 22-year mark, or whatever it might be. But let's appreciate her. Let's recognize her. So appreciation, again, is so inexpensive and so valuable. And employees want it. Even if the person who you think is the most introverted, who doesn't like a compliment that says, well, job well done, and well-being, again, not a lot of money. At CEA, one of the ideas, again, I'm just sharing best practices, we started during the pandemic several years ago, is we said, let's have a well-being fund where we'll give everybody a couple $100 a year, and they can go do something good for themselves. They can buy sneakers, they can buy a workout outfit, they can buy a therapy session, they can buy a gym membership for the month, they can buy something, a new leash to walk their dog. We even had somebody purchase a Roomba cleaner because they said, I hate cleaning house, but if I had this, it would make my life easier. I mean, it's silly, but what is it? But the employee's saying, I'd like this. It would be better for me. And we're saying, no problem. Here you go. Here's the money for that. So small little things can make a big difference. And just overall, how are your leaders? Are your leaders leaders, or are they bosses? Are your leaders coaches, or are they going to be bosses? We really don't want bosses anymore. We want leaders, because leaders are coaches. They want people to succeed, and they're doing everything they can to help everybody elevate themselves. That's what a good leader is doing. I mentioned earlier that, that first impression is so, so critical. And Glassdoor, which many of you may be familiar with, if not, it's interesting to look up and see if your company is on Glassdoor. So Glassdoor is, it's a website you can go to where employees can write what they think about their companies. Now, a lot of times it's a disgruntled employee who leaves the company that writes on Glassdoor. Sometimes, hopefully, it's employees who are happy with their experience and they write good things about your company. It's a mixed bag. And I don't know that it's as popular now as it was back in the day, but in 2022, Glassdoor did a big survey of all the employees who utilize them and write on their site. And they asked them whether a good onboarding program will help them stay and retain them. And they found out that 82% of those employees said that an effective onboarding process does indeed boost their retention. So it really is so important that you take a look every year at your onboarding process. What are you doing? Are you finding a buddy for that person so that they get proper training? Are you doing a 30, 60, 90-day review with that new employee? Critical, so they know how they're doing, good, bad, or ugly. So I just can't emphasize enough new hire orientations, and we can help you with that if you need it. But just really, and the best thing you could do is have your current employees help create that new employee orientation. Because yes, there's some things from a HR standpoint that you need to do, right? There's certain forms that have to be checked off in your I-9 and all that hiring paperwork. But then let some other employees be a part of what else should be in that onboarding. Even before somebody's onboarded for you, you're talking to people because you're recruiting, right? You're doing job interviews. So Jessica Rivera does a lot of our recruiting for us. And one of the things that she has taught us is that every time we talk to somebody, so every time you're talking to somebody who wants to come work for you, whether you're thinking there's no way in heck I would ever hire this person, or, oh, I can't wait to get this person, you need to treat that job applicant, that job candidate as a customer. I have an older daughter right now who lives in Austin, and she got laid off because she was in the tech and a startup business. And so now she's interviewing like crazy. And she said, you won't believe it, Mom. It's like, I just was on an interview the other day with two people. The guy looked like he was so bored, like he'd done a million of these interviews and he was sick of it. It was so, I don't even know even if they come back and tell me I have a second interview, I don't know that I want to work for them, because it was so awkward for me as the applicant that I could tell the person interviewing me was like checked out to lunch. So they were not treating her like a good customer, right? They were not, so that even if they don't hire her, she says good things about them. She's already not saying good things about them, right? To me, her mom, to her friends who are also in the tech industry in Austin. So you need to understand that the experience you put you put someone through when they're interviewing with you is going to get talked about. So how would you like to be talked about behind your back? Good or bad? I think we know the answer to that. Your job ad really, it blows my mind how many job ads are horribly written. Again, with the advent of ChatGPT, you can take your boring job ad that you've used for the last 5 years or 10 years for your warehouse person or whatever the job is, and you say, make this really sizzle, or make this job ad funny, or make this job ad whatever. You can give whatever verb you want to it, and it will spit you back a job ad that really embodies who you are as a company. One of the things we say on every job ad that when we post a job with CEA is we say, if you are tired of red tape, if you are tired of office politics and working at a company where you're jockeying for position, we're the place for you. Another thing we say is, if you like to be spoon-fed, if you like to have your hand held every step of the way, this is not the place for you. We're not a big enough company that we have hundreds and hundreds of employees and layers and layers. So you need to be somebody who can get it, who has experience. That's what we want here. We aren't a training ground for somebody new in the business. That's not who we are at CEA. So our job ad should reflect who our company is, how we work, what our culture is. And there are so many job boards out there. You know, if you're a water district, well, then go find the latest Water District Association magazine and put something on their job board. Whatever your industry is, find as many different job boards as you can be on. Don't just be on this, the same thing. And you know what's kind of funny is, Craigslist seems like you might scoff at it or say poo-poo. We've found some incredible employees. We always post on Craigslist. Yes, in addition to ZipRecruiter or Indeed or LinkedIn or wherever else we're running an ad. But we also go with, the tried and true. It should be like a shotgun. Put it everywhere you can and make sure your job talks about who you are. But find those little odd, out of the way job boards. Sometimes you'll find your best people there. Making your interview engaging, again, just talking to somebody, allowing for a few minutes of, I want to call it icebreaker, hey, how are the holidays treating you, would be a question you might ask somebody to start out. You don't have to start out with, what was the last place you ever worked and tell me about your best boss. You don't have to jump right into it. Have a conversation with this person. And again, maybe within the first 10 minutes of that conversation, you learn something that you would have never learned in asking those other questions. And that might tip you off that this is or is not a good person who's a right fit for your company. But be conversational. If you've got hiring managers, ask them what they're needing. What are you needing? Do you need more money for more ads? Do you need a different ad? Do you need more people on your interviews? Just support those hiring managers, because it's really hard to be running a company or running a department, and you're also having to do hiring too. And a lot of times somebody is being a manager and then I got an interview and they have to put that aside and put on their recruiter hat. So are you supporting those people? Are you giving them the right questions to ask so that they are asking questions that won't get your company into trouble and that make their life a little easier as the interviewer? So, and then one thing we did this year is we allowed more people to be on interviews in the company. And some people were like, I never even did an interview before. This is exciting. I enjoy being on interviews. So interview panels are kind of a neat way to get several opinions from your employees on what they think about somebody. And it's nice to do more than one interview so that you really see somebody 1, 2, maybe 3 times before you make that hiring decision. Education is important, but what we are seeing now is that experience is kind of starting to outweigh education. So take a look. Are you requiring education when maybe you could require experience? Maybe the position you're hiring for doesn't really need a 4-year degree, and you've been asking for 4-year degrees just because that's what you've always done. Maybe 10 years of experience is better than a 4-year degree. Maybe 5 years of experience is better than a 2-year degree. Maybe a certification in HTML coding is more important than a college degree. So, take a look at what you're requiring when it comes to education and experience, and make sure you're not being ridiculous or unreasonable in what you're looking for out there. We've also had good luck. Another little tip we've had is we've had some terrific luck reaching out to past applicants. So oftentimes, maybe we've narrowed it down from 10 people who wanted a job to 6 people to 3 people to 2 people to 1. And sometimes, you have that, like, darn, if we had 2 positions, we could hire them both, but we don't. So reach out to past applicants. That's something that really, if there's somebody in the last year or so that maybe you spoke to, maybe they're still available. Something to look at there, or reaching out to your peers, on LinkedIn and saying, hey, have you been doing any interviewing? Is there anybody you passed up on, but you wish you hadn't? I'd love to talk with them. So that's terrific as well. Tapping untapped talent, that can be, you could be at going through a checkout line at a cash register, and you go to the same store every week and you're like, gosh, Nancy is always so great. Well, hey, do you need somebody on the phones for customer service? Maybe Nancy would like a job with your company, right? So sometimes it's just keeping your eyes open for untapped talent that you might be able to bring on to your team. Maybe it's somebody inside who you think, what if I move them from this department to here? I think their skills are transferable, and it'd be easier for me to hire in for this position if I can move them over to this other more complicated position. So maybe there's untapped talent within your current pool of employees. Employee referral programs are awesome. I used to work in glass manufacturing, and the best way I found other great employees in our manufacturing was by my current employees. I would say, hey, if you can bring me somebody here, you refer a friend or a family member, and I hire them, I'm going to give you X dollars. Maybe it would be $150. If they make it to their 90-day review, I'm going to give you another $250. Because you know what? That $400 combined was priceless to me, and about the cost of running an ad on ZipRecruiter. So, and the likelihood of somebody bringing somebody in and them staying and being successful is a lot higher. Most people are not going to refer a friend or a family member if they think they're going to let you down because it's embarrassing to them. So if you don't have an employee referral program, get one. If you think it's boring and you've done the same old thing, make it robust. Throw some money at it. Who doesn't want some money to go, let me think about who might want to come work here for me? And finally, last but not least, recruiting videos are a big new trend going into 2025, where people just really get to see you and who you are and what you do. And so you can put those on your job board on your website, maybe in your careers page. You could do it on LinkedIn. Hey, we're looking at CEA for XYZ position, and we would love to have you come see us, that type of thing. So that's kind of a living job ad instead of just the tried and true written job ads. All right, I'm going to take a breath in case there's any questions. So let's talk a little bit about onboarding best practices. Again, the more you can do with a new hire beforehand, the better. So a job offer letter that clearly communicates, here's how much you're going to get paid. If they're hourly, here's your overtime rate and your regular rate. Asking them telling them what they need to bring when you do the orientation. Please bring a check because we're going to do direct deposit, voided check. Please bring, several forms of ID. Here's the choices A, B, and C on our I-9 forms. So you're going to have to fill one out. Please come prepared to do that. Those are really good pre-boarding things so that you kind of get some housekeeping out of the way and they show up ready and don't go, oh God, I didn't bring that today. The more people, especially top leaders, you can bring to welcome a new person to the team is really, again, it makes people feel good. Wow, so-and-so took time out to come and shake my hand. And that really set a nice tone for my onboarding and my new hire orientation. Again, I think the most important thing that first day or two, depending, your orientation might be 2 hours, it might be 4 hours, it might be 3 days long. Whatever it is, and there's no right or wrong, focus on connection. Yes, you need to get some things checked off, right? You need to make sure that they do the I-9 and they give me a job application and all that. But more importantly, let's connect. What are you worried about? What do you have questions about for me right now before we even get started? And we'll make sure we cover those today. And then those frequent check-ins I mentioned, we try and give everybody here when they start a 30, 60, 90-day checklist. Here's our training plan for you for 30, 60, and 90 days. And then I'm going to check in with you at 30, 60, 90 days. So just constantly checking in is so important to help you reinforce who you are and what you expect with your employees and what they can expect of you, and just reinforcing your company culture. Another Forbes informational piece is that most employees want to know answers to these 5 questions in their first week of employment. What's this whole company believe in? So at CEA, it's pretty easy, right? We believe in supporting employers, providing them with peace of mind, keeping them in compliance, keeping them out of court. That's our whole mission. So making sure, what is your mission? Do you have one? If not, be worthwhile to get your leaders together to determine what is the mission and purpose of your company, and let your employee know about that. And here's how you, Kim or John or Jill or Maria, fit into what we're doing and what our mission statement is. We are huge and have been for about 16 years on Strength Finders, not only because we have Strength Finders coaches, but because we all love Strength Finders and we want to play to our strengths. If we as human beings know what our strengths are, and you can do that with an assessment tool, and we play to our strengths instead of always focusing on our weaknesses, we're going to enjoy what we're doing a lot better. And so if your employees know what their strengths are, if you can identify, so we have all of our employees in their first week read the Strength Finders. It's like a 30-page thing, and then they take an assessment that takes about 15 minutes, and then we sit down with them and say, you may or may not have known it, but these are your top 5 strengths: communication, or winning over others, or ideation, or whatever it is, and let's talk about it. Do you think it's right on? Is that good? So now how do we use your strengths in your job? Because if you're playing to your strengths, you're enjoying your job, because everybody wants to be successful. Making sure that employee knows what their role is. You know, you're part of this team, and this team is part of the bigger team, and, you know, and so on and so forth. Here's what your job description is. It's been updated. You know, do you have questions about it? Explaining to them what other teams or partners they work with, you know. So you're in sales, you work with marketing. You're in the warehouse, you're going to work with production. You're in customer service, you're going to work with all the departments or whatever it might be. And then again, employees kind of want to know, is there going to be room for growth for me? And so it's kind of nice in those first few weeks or during the orientation to say, tell stories about people. You know, she's been here for 7 years. He's been here for 4 years. She started as a part-time whatever. Our controller, I love to tell that story. Andrea, who works for CEA, and she's been here 7 years. She started as a part-time accounting assistant with a temp agency. She was sent here. And eventually she went into full-time. And then she took on a new title of controller. And then she took on a new title of VP of finance. And now she's a part of our executive leadership team. All in the course of 7 years. She increased her salary, her knowledge, and her title. So telling those kind of stories can really help people out. I don't know if you know about Frank Pachetta, and I don't know if I'm saying his name right. I hope I am. He was with Xerox for 20 years. He's a professional circuit speaker, motivational speaker. And at first I thought, till I did a little research on him, I thought, oh, he must have been like the founder. I don't know. I don't really know who he is. So I looked it up. And interestingly enough, and then I'll tell you more about his quote here on engagement, but he was the district sales manager. He was a district sales manager for Xerox, and he took his district to be number 4 in the entire global world for Xerox. So in all their sales, he took his company from number 20 to number 4 in sales. And he says, you win with people if you cherish them, if you develop them, and if you show them that you sincerely care about their personal success. So I thought that was great. I mean, and here's a guy that he made sure people feel engaged. If they're cherished, and I think cherish is an interesting idea. You don't usually hear that word at work, right? You might hear that with your child or your spouse or relationship. But he's just saying, do they feel cherished? Do they feel valued? Do they feel cared about? Are you taking, do I feel like you've got my back and you're taking care of me? You're supporting me financially, emotionally. An employee comes in and says, I've got somebody in hospice. Are you saying, go, be where you need to be? Or are you saying, well, I don't think you have any vacation time left, so I'm sorry to hear it. You know, what are you doing to support your employees and show them, I want you to be the best version of yourself? Because if you are happy as a human being, you're going to do a heck of a lot better for me as an employee, right? Going back to that. So the interesting thing about coaching is that coaching, and when you create this, I'm your coach, not your boss, I want to coach you to success, is that it allows your employees to uncover a sense of excitement and motivation about coming to work. You know, it's exciting. We just did a really neat thing where we got to honor and cherish and say thank you to Anna, to Virginia, and to Karen. So 3 employees in our company just worked together to get us on the news. We were on Fox 40 News, and we were on KCRA just yesterday, or the day before, talking all about 2025 labor laws. And it took a team, right? We had a PR person, which Karen set up. Then she said, who wants to do it? I said, not me. I don't like that. It makes me too nervous to go live on TV. So then we had another employee, Virginia, who's one of our HR compliance trainers. And she said, I'll do it. It sounds like fun to me. So she decided to volunteer, went out and got a new suit. And then Anna said, I'm going to make great slides so that they look beautiful for you when you're on TV and they show those, you know, slides behind the person with the bullet points. Wow, how fun. And then we put that, when we put those 2 links out to everybody in the company, we don't have a big company, 25 employees, but we put it out and said, hey, look at what happened. Let's all celebrate. Let's all celebrate our people. That's what it's about. That's what I'm talking about when you say you're creating a culture of coaching and where people feel like they are coached to success. You're taking out roadblocks. Was I supposed to speak today? No. but we had a person who was ill. So, hey, do we want to cancel? No, we don't. We want somebody else to jump in. Eliminating roadblocks, pivoting, supporting each other. I'm nervous. Let me help you out. Let me look that over. Let me give you a slide deck. Whatever it is, all those different things are creating a coaching culture that just encourage people to share and support and be there for one another. Let me help you. Let me do it with you. Let me be your backup. Sometimes being a coach is very hard for me as a person because I talk a lot, right? And when you're somebody who talks a lot, what do you not do a lot? Sometimes you aren't listening, right? So if I want to be the best coach, if you want to be the best coach you can be, and I'm not always, and you won't either, but on your best day ever, you're asking questions. What do you think? How can that help? What can I do? What I hear you saying is this. I hear you saying you're afraid to go do that. How can I help you, support you? Because you need to go do it. And once you do it, you're going to feel great. So how do I do that as a coach? If I can be focusing on somebody's career development and, hey, you're good at this. Remember, you've got this covered. You've done this before. Identifying their strengths through Strength Finders. I'm going to pitch that again because it's a great, great thing. But just making sure people know their potential, identifying their potential, and then giving them constructive feedback. Hey, we were in that meeting the other day and you said this. I'm not sure if that came across the best way. Maybe you could deliver that same message differently because optically it didn't hit me right? So that would be a constructive feedback instead of you did this wrong or I think you should do this. It's, what do you think about this? Do you think if you said it this way, somebody might hear it differently? So really the whole goal of a coaching culture, hard to say, is to help other people become successful. And it's just an environment where everybody at every level, from the top to the new hire, gets to genuinely be a part of the coaching process and learn the coaching techniques in their daily interactions. And everybody is empowered to grow, develop, and be the best person they can be, not only at work, but outside in their personal life. And if you do it right, your people trust you. Even when you make a mistake or you say something stupid or you forget to acknowledge somebody, they know that you didn't mean it, right? You said before, I know what her intention was. I know what his intention was. I trust them enough that I know they are not in a good place today, or they didn't mean it the way it came across. So an employee who feels valued, seen, and heard trusts you. They feel confident, they feel satisfied, and it just makes them want to do better and give 110%, keeps them excited, motivated. Hey, this is a great job. I got to try new things. I got to put my fingers in a lot of pots, So you're going to get the best work, the best quality work out of people when you coach them well. Now, sometimes before I came to CEA, I never did one-on-one meetings. I never had a one-on-one meeting. I didn't even know what a one-on-one meeting was. And I'd been in Target stores working, glass manufacturing. I'd worked for Safeco Insurance, major companies. Nobody ever gave me a one-on-one meeting. I didn't know what it was. So a one-on-one meeting, I just want to give a couple tips on this, is really, really important for your employee engagement specifically. Gallup says that employees who have regular one-on-one meetings with their managers are 3 times as likely to be engaged at work. 3 times more likely. That's amazing. And 86% of highly engaged organizations use regular manager to employee one-on-one meetings compared to 50% of disengaged companies. And a one-on-one might just be a phone call. It doesn't have to be scheduled. It can be. But it could be a 5 or 10 minute call. Could be a sales huddle, a marketing huddle. We do those here every single week, regularly scheduled. But it's also checking in one-on-one with an employee to say, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And these are tips. I don't say that I believe in all of them. These are tips. Some of the tips are create an agenda. I personally believe that a one-on-one meeting that's happening every week or once a month does not need an agenda. Particularly once a week. I mean, I don't want the time and energy for them or me to create an agenda. So it might just be, okay, we got 30 minutes. What do you want to make sure we cover? We write that down. We create the agenda on the fly. But it's good for the employee to know kind of what the purpose of a one-on-one is. Some people say in a one-on-one, the boss, quote unquote, to strip that word from me, right? The leader, the coach, does no talking during a one-on-one. They only listen. Other times I've heard one-on-one meetings where the employee starts and then the coach comes in later. It can be however you want it to be, but just let everybody know how it's going to go. Is it going to be a two-way dialogue? What's it going to be? You could create specific questions if you want to. You could say, for example, let's talk about everything that went well last month or last quarter or whatever. Let's talk about your biggest disappointments, your biggest successes, whatever. But, think about that and let the person who's coming to you, what would you like this meeting to look like? If I'm going to meet with you 30 minutes every week or every month or every quarter, what would you like that to look like? Do you want to talk about goals? Sometimes we never talk about a goal in a one-on-one. Sometimes we do. And then if you don't have enough time, then you say, hey, I just want to check in. I'm happy with everything here. But make sure you do have time for that feedback. Maybe you don't have time for the agenda and you say we have to kick the can down to the next week before we can talk about A, B, or C. But I do want to just let you know I'm happy with where things are at, or I'm concerned about with where things are at. Or are you concerned with where things are at? Are you happy with where things are at? Of course, if there's something positive to recognize, you do that in that one-on-one meeting, of course. But there's no right or wrong way. And if you go to our blog at employers.org and you go on the search bar, you can type in one-on-one meetings. We've got at least 2 different articles we've written about what a good one-on-one meeting would look like and some of the questions you can ask. So it gives you kind of some samples more than just what I already gave to you. Let me see where we're at on time. We've got 7 minutes left here. When we talk about types of feedback, I think it's important to give honest feedback, right? Honest feedback is always going to be the most valuable. So there's negative, which we know what that is. Hey, this didn't go well. There's positive. Hey, this went really well. But you may or may not have heard of negative feed forward, which is talking about, in the future, don't do this. Negative feed forward, I kind of like negative feed forward. My husband taught me negative feed forward. If my husband and I have a situation where he doesn't like how something went down, he's very good about saying, well, moving forward, honey, let's do this differently. Or moving forward, can we both agree that this is not the way we're going to handle things when you go out of town? Or moving forward, are you going to turn off the lights before you go to bed, or am I? Whatever it might be, that negative feed forward, stating what you shouldn't do in the future, can be very helpful to somebody. Positive feed forward is, I love this recipe you just made for dinner. Can we have this as a regular part of our rotation, right? So this was great, and here's how I'd like to make it greater. This was really good, something you did. Here's how I'd like you to come and talk to the board about what you just did. I'd like you to share this with other teams, whatever. That would be positive feed forward. So there's more than just good or bad feedback. But 80% of employees who say, I got real, honest, meaningful feedback in the past week, those are the people who are engaged. So it doesn't have to be good. It's meaningful. It struck a chord within them. It made them really listen and go, aha. You made me feel something, good, bad, or indifferent. What about stay interviews? Again, we've got about 5 minutes left. We've heard a lot about exit interviews, right? A person's leaving your company and you want to give them a sheet of paper that says, tell me what we could have done better. Did you like the temperature here? Did you like the people? Did you like the salary? Did you like the building? Did you like the parking? Whatever. That's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But stay interviews are totally different. A stay interview is almost in a way like a one-on-one. It's sitting down with an employee to say what's really working and what's not. One of the things we're going to do in 2025 at CEA is we're going to give 2 reviews a year. We're going to give a performance review, which is where we have the employee provide their feedback first, and they do like a pre-review, and then we review their performance. And then after that, 6 months later, we're going to do a stay interview, which is I'm setting aside an hour, not to talk about your performance, but for you to do all the talking and for you to tell me things like what energizes you most about your current job. What would make your job even more satisfying? Do you feel recognized? Do you feel valued? How do you like to be recognized? What career development opportunities are you interested in? If you don't ask them, you don't even know if they have any, right? How do you describe your work-life balance? That's another good question for a stay interview. What do you like most about our company culture? What don't you like about our company culture? Is there any technology I could give to you that would make your job easier? All those are great questions to ask somebody during a stay interview and to really learn what's going on. And you might find that you get somebody who's like, I've been really unhappy. And you might find out that you just salvaged that employee and you retained that employee because you took the time to sit down and truly say, this is all about you. I want you to be here. You're important to me. I want your seat to be saved on the bus with you in that seat. How do I make that happen? I won't do the poll out there to everybody because we don't have time, but think about your formal employee recognition program. Do you have one? You should. Think about that with your executive team. How could you do that? Is it birthdays? Is it anniversaries? How do you want to recognize milestones? A successful recognition program has these 5 elements. It's really real for your organization. It makes sense for your organization. It's personalized for that person, the way they want to be recognized. Again, if somebody tells you, I don't ever want you to recognize me in front of others, then don't do it. Well, John deserves a pat on the back. If John doesn't like that and John's told you don't do that, right? It needs to be fulfilling for the person. So when you come up with a successful recognition program, you might want to send it out to all the people. This is how we're going to recognize people here. How do you feel about that? Do you like about it? Am I treating everybody in every department the same? Am I treating everybody at every level the same? You should be, because that would be equitable. And then how are you embedding it in your company culture? How are you making sure that you don't lose sight of it, that it's not just a checklist, but that it's truly heartfelt? And there's a book called Work Human, and it talks about a chapter called From Praise to Profits. And it's the business case for recognition at work. And that's something you might want to read on your own, From Praise to Profits. And it's all about how important recognition is, how much it boosts productivity, it improves employee retention, fosters a positive work environment, helps you bring on new people when you recognize the people you have. Leo Buscaglia says, to know and not to do is not to know. And what we're getting at there is, I hope there's something, just one little thing you heard today in this presentation or from a CEA example, maybe a real world example, that you could do differently. So think in your mind, is there one thing I took today from listening to Kim and Anna for the last hour that I could do differently to really help people flourish and enhance their experience working for my company? And if that is something you can do, I'll feel like we succeeded. To wrap up, I want to remind you about Alameda County's free resource, which is this hotline. You can call us Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 888-202-5668. Tell us your name. Tell us what company you're with. If you've called us before, you don't have to give us all the deets the second time around. But we are here to support you and help provide you with peace of mind as an employer and make your life a little bit easier by answering those crazy questions. If you're somebody who's getting continuing education credits, you just earned another credit today. Anna's going to go ahead and read off the HRCI and the SHRM codes to you. And Anna, thank you for joining us again.
For sure. Thank you, Kim, for that. Man, that was a lot of information. In fact, I was engaged watching the whole time, thinking about how different my employment at CEA has been from some past employers. So I really do enjoy this training. But again, if you're joining us from for and continuing education credits, your HRCI code today, I did also drop this into the chat if you need that reference, but 688189. Your SHRM code today is 24-7KS as in Sam, 7P as in Paul. Jocelyn, I did just see your note here. If you scroll up a tiny bit, I did drop that file into the chat. However, if you don't see it, I'm also going to put it in here. There it is there. So you will see it in just a moment. If you click on it, it'll download locally to your drive. if you're having trouble with that, it should be in your email reminder that I sent, which is how you probably found today's Zoom link. And if you are still having trouble, please just email us, ceainfo@employers.org. We will make sure that you get that information today. And then, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, we do have a very brief survey. It's 5 questions, generally takes about a minute to complete. So you can choose your own adventure here if you'd like to scan on your mobile device that QR code, or after we close out here, you'll see a browser window pop up. All you have to do is click opt-in to start that survey for us. And we do want to also encourage you to consider purchasing your 2025 labor law poster from us. I'll drop that link into the chat as well. Let's see how fast I can type here. That will, of course, I didn't hyperlink it, but you get the idea. If you go to employers.org, you'll see the store link at the very top on the banner there. And those posters are on the front row. Those are completely updated for 2025. They are shipping very soon. I think we're waiting on one agency to get us those updates, and then they will be sent out immediately. I'll let Kim here speak to membership because she does such a more articulate job than I do if you're available.
So, again, we talked so much about the wonderful free hotline you all get, and that's your taxpayer dollars at work that is allowing Alameda County to offer our free services HR. But we do so much more than just answer the phone. We have fabulous toolkits that help you on everything from hiring to firing and everything in between. We've got free online harassment prevention training in English and Spanish for your employees and your supervisors. That all comes free with the membership, so you'd never pay for harassment prevention training again for any of your employees. So we've just got so many great discounts and resources above and beyond what you get from Alameda, which is wonderful. So I'd encourage you now, before the new year begins and our prices do go up, to look at joining CEA and we'll save you $150 if you join before the end of the year. So give us a call if you have questions about that. But we thank you. We thank Alameda County for partnering with us. We wish you nothing but the best through the rest of the holiday season. And we are looking to thrive in 2025, and we're here to help you thrive in 2025 as well. So thank you, and thank you, Anna.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim, for sharing your time and expertise with us. And thank you all for joining us live. We'll see you on the next training, the labor law update coming up on January 22nd. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.